Hello and welcome to Papercrafting Playdate. My name is Robin Armbrecht at Really Robin Stamps. I'm so glad we're going to stamp together today. It is August 24th, 2025 in real time here. It's Sunday afternoon, and whether you're going to join me live here today or you're going to watch us on the replay later, so glad to have you. Please leave me a comment about what you're creating. What are you creating in your card making space or your crafting space? I love to hear about what you're making. Today we are going to continue part 2 of using your white craft ink for card making. So there's a part 1. That video is linked in the description, so if you haven't caught that one, you might want to try and see the part 1. So part 2, we're going to cover 3 techniques today. So before we begin, I have cards to share, and so we are going to look at the stamp table so I can showcase your work. This is the best part of our playdates, is sharing each other's cards. So whatever you send me in the mail, I share because it's amazing. This is from Stephanie. I love these colors. This country, misty moonlight, petal pink, basic beige, beautiful focal point. So pretty. It's perfect. Such a happy daisy. Thank you, Stephanie. Look at this gorgeous pear. This is from Elizabeth. And I'm going to get this as close as possible here. She colored, I believe she said this was a Patty. Hold on, let me read this. This was a Patty Bennett technique. Yes, she used Patty Bennett's watercolor technique. She's working on watercoloring this week. She used lemon lime twist, granny apple green, pear pizzazz, re-inkers to color this pear. So it feels like watercolor paper. And so she just cut out the shapes of the 2 different dyes that work with stamps, but she just used them and then just straight up watercolored that pear. So beautiful, Elizabeth. I love this. Gorgeous. That should be framed. It looks like you painted it. So beautiful. Thank you for the card. This is from my friend Mary. She made a flip-flap card, which I actually have on my list for Papercrafting Playdates, because look how fun this is. It's an interactive fold with this beautiful middle that creates this fun little flip-flap. Great. Super fun. I haven't made one. I want to make one. Thank you, Mary. You send the greatest little fun folds. I got 2 different cards with July's Paper Pumpkin kit, and look how beautiful they both are and so different. This one's from Susan, and all her craft supplies have been packed away because she was moving, so she is just using her paper pumpkin kits right now until she can get everything back in order. I know she's not the only one that's had to move a craft room. So she created this little container of strawberries, so cute, stamped the little strawberry on the inside. And then this is from Linda, and she said, look, she even had a strawberry. Looks like a little strawberry. Well, maybe this is from the kit. And she wrote her little note on there. She said her attempt at focal point clusters from last week's Papercrafting Playdate. Look at that focal point cluster. This is amazing. This is what would we call it? A maxi focal point cluster. I love all the strawberries. And I like the shapes you've got layered down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little white flowers. What a delight. These are great. These are like gonna decorate my little window ledge to remind me how fun strawberries are, right? And this is from Julie. She also watched the focal point cluster video last week, and she made me a little initial focal point cluster. So that's so sweet. Look at her her little tiny leaves. Beautiful little acorn. Thank you, Julie. Love it. I love it when you take what we learned and then put it right to work. Okay, last thing. This is, if you are a customer of mine, I offer a reward. Each month it's usually a card kit. This one is the Painterly Pairs card kit. You get a little piece of all the 6 of the DSPs and coordinating cardstock, some ribbon and embellishments, so that you can kind of create on your own. You get a little opportunity to use this suite of paper products with the little card kit. So when you spend $50 or more during the month, after the month is over, everybody who did gets the kit. That comes from me. All right. So this was White Craft Ink Part 1. And the techniques that I covered in Part 1 are kind of the basic techniques with the white craft pad. And so we did background stamping. Just stamping a background in white is still my favorite technique ever. We covered using direct to paper technique on an embossing folder. And then we did kind of a chalkboard technique with white heat embossing. We're going to do a little bit of a repeat of that today with one of our new techniques. And then we did shadow stamping. Okay, so there's unsplattering. So there's like 5 little techniques with white craft. So I'm going to stand up so we can get busy. We're going to do some different techniques today. This is the white craft ink that I'm talking about. It comes uninked with a refill, so that when you get it, your job is to ink it. So I have already inked this one, but I'll show you how you do it in case you've never seen one before. So it's just a blank foam pad when you get it. The foam is the same as the other ink pads that Stampin' Up! Carries, but they are filled with dye ink. Okay, white ink is a pigment ink, and it has to be a pigment ink so that you can see it on cardstock, because it does not soak into the cardstock as much as it dries on top of the cardstock. That's what pigment ink does, and it's thicker. So it almost is the consistency of like white craft paint is what it is similar to, but it is created out of pigment. And so when you go to ink it the first time, you're going to just take your time and kind of cover it. So I've already inked this once and I've been using it, so it needs a little bit of a refresh. You will not add the whole bottle when you re-ink it. You'll just add probably 1/3 at first to kind of get it going. Okay, so now you can kind of see the first rows are soaking in, the first lines. So I usually just do them in 2 different directions. And you can use the tip of the bottle to kind of work it in. Or you can also use something rounded and smooth so it won't tear your pad, to just kind of blend that in. So that kind of smooths out those lines. Okay, and then you're all ready to start with the technique because you've got some white on a little block there. Some other tools that I'm using today for our techniques are blender pen. So this is a clear water. It's like a glycerin inside here, so it helps you blend with all kinds of different things, inks, watercolor, pencils. Okay, so we're going to use that. I'm going to use a water painter. So this is just like a paintbrush, except that you can fill the barrel with water so that you kind of have a constant flow of water. So I'm using the narrow tip brush today for one of our techniques. If you have a regular paintbrush, that works just as well. Stampin' Up! Supplier stopped carrying these, so they're not carrying them right now. I'm also going to use the Wink of Stella and just my other tools, blending brush for white, and then a sponge dauber. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Let's start with the embossing folder technique. So today we're going to do a stepped up embossing folder technique. we're going to do whitewash, and we're going to do blended die cuts. Got 3 things. So one of the really fun things that you can do, which was in part 1, is use run your cardstock through the embossing folder and then add white ink on top. Direct to paper technique is what I'm going to show you. So this is just a piece of crushed curry cardstock with the beautiful sunflowers embossing folder, and then I just dragged some white ink with my ink pad across to make that pop. Okay, totally awesome, simple technique. And then I just stepped it up a little bit more by adding crushed curry ink to the flat side of my embossing folder. So I just put the yellow ink on this side, put my paper in, embossed it, and then did the direct to paper again. And I'm showing you this because these are 2 very simple embossing folder techniques you can do with any embossing folder. And I just want you to see how when you add that ink, it hits the background, it hits the underside, the flat part of the embossing folder, the debossed side, and it just makes that stand out even more. Both ways are beautiful. So what we're going to do is we are going to add color to our paper before we emboss it. So I've just got a piece of crumb cake. Crumb cake cardstock is going to be our hero today because there's so many things you can do with it, with our white craft ink. And so this is a new folder that's coming out in the mini catalog. It goes along with this suite you see on the front. It's got all kinds of delightful things in there, but this is just a really big, let's see if you can see it better if I open it. It's a nice square, makes a nice big round wreath. Okay, so I'm going to just put it in here so we can kind of see when I emboss this what it's going to look like. Okay, so we're going to kind of get this nice edge all the way around, and then the center is going to be unembossed. Hey, Julie. Hi, Donna. So I'm going to take these 3 bright colors. I'm going to add color to the paper before we emboss it. All right, so let's go with yellow first. So I'm going to make the inside of the, whoops, I just used the wrong one. I'm going to use the inside. Okay, so I used my white, the one I had for white. I accidentally put it into my yellow pad. Okay, so this happens sometimes. So if something like this happens with your ink pad, don't despair. I like to use paper towel, but I don't seem to have any of that in my craft room right now. Okay, so what you're going to do is blot out. This happens too with like a black ink pad in other colors. Seems like you always get black ink in your yellow pad. What's wrong with the yellow pad? I think it's the yellow pad's fault, to be honest. I'm going to blame the yellow pad. Okay, so I'm going to take my re-inker here. Going to work that back in. So just take a paper towel. Paper towel works better because it doesn't leave as many little fibers as like a tissue does. Or you can use a cloth that you can wash. Just blot out the offending ink and then re-ink it. Okay, so I was supposed to use this brush. Now this is supposed to be for my white only, so this will be interesting because I don't have another blank one. So I'm going to just rub this in my my Stampin' Scrub, and so it'll be a little damp, but there, I got the most of that out. Okay. We're getting messy already. We haven't put one single thing on the cardstock. Okay, I have the right brush now. So what I'm going to do is start, and in the center of that wreath, I'm going to make it yellow. So I just picked some bright colors to kind of pop on this crumb cake. Okay, so we just want a nice soft center. Then I'm going to take Strawberry Slush and Granny Apple Green. Hi, Tamara. And I'm going to kind of just do some green and some pink in areas where the wreath is going to be. Going off the edge. Kind of melting into the yellow. And then we'll take Strawberry Slush. So basically what I'm doing is just kind of thinking about where that wreath is, just to reiterate. Okay, there's where the wreath is, and I'm just going to put some color around it so that when we emboss it, we're going to get that color kind of going with the embossing folder design. I want that pink to really pop. I think wearing my white shirt today was a really bad idea. I can tell we're going to get a little messy. Okay, so I just kind of went back over everything so that they're kind of all of the same tone of the value or intensity of color. And we'll close those up. Put that on the side. Okay, so now what we're going to do is emboss. This is the fun part. Okay, so you want to make sure the logo, if you have a Stampin' Up! Embossing folder, is the top. Okay, so your paper goes face up. Just making sure that's centered. Zoom out a little bit. This is a 3D folder, so I'm going to use the gray plate. Okay, so here's what we ended up with. Beautiful, just like that. So here's where we're stepping it up. Okay, so instead of just going back to the sunflower, instead of just embossing on the cardstock plain and then adding the white, we're going to add color. So that's how we're stepping it up. Now we're going to take the white craft ink and we're going to do direct to paper. You could also use a sponge dauber if you like to have a little more control. Then you just start gently dabbing on the raised, okay? And so with a light touch, you're only going to get the white is going to be on the highlighted embossed. Okay, so now direct to paper, you're at like a 25 to 30 degree. Let's see if I can do it sideways, like this. You're at a kind of a narrow angle as you drag. And I'm right-handed, and so I always kind of drag on the right side because that's how I do the best. Okay, so instead of like moving over, I'm just gonna turn this. I'm gonna go on this side because you want to do it a couple times. And it's really light. You want to go really light so that your ink pad doesn't go in down and push too hard and get down underneath. And then you just keep doing that until you've had as much fun as you want to have. And because this is a 3D folder, you get the part that is highest, the most embossed part of that folder are all these little details. And then the second highest are the, all the leaves in the wreath, and those also get highlighted. And so of course, if you wanted more, you could take, I think the sponge dauber works better than the blending brush. You could go ahead and add more with your sponge dauber. Isn't that pretty? Okay, this embossing folder, I know it's coming out in the holiday catalog, but I think it's going to be terrific. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over because my pad was off of the paper, and so there's white ink on there. White ink takes a while to dry, and so if you want to speed it up, you use your heat tool. I'm just going to let it sit there while we put the rest of our card together. So we're going to make this pop on a black card. Brought in my cloth, so I should use it because you get ink on your fingers. Okay, so this is going to go on the black card, and then we're going to add a little embellishment. Okay, this is currently my absolute favorite bundle ever. I cannot get enough of it. So this is the More Messages bundle where you stamp all the greetings at one time and then you cut them all out with this die. And so I've just found that I need to have them in like all my neutral colors. So I just embossed them with my white craft pad, and then I used white embossing powder, which we're going to do that on the next card. And so now I have all these wonderful white with black ink, black with white ink, crumb cake, all my neutrals. I love having that. Let's see. My white ink refill is really thick. Is that normal? Absolutely. I'm going to pour some out in just a minute because we're going to watercolor with it. So you'll see how thick mine is, and that is absolutely normal. What would happen if you spritz glitter spray on this right now? That sounds gorgeous. I think that would be beautiful. Currently, we are not carrying Stampin' Up! Any spritz glitter spray, unfortunately, because that sounds very fun. Okay, so I just picked a black card base because I'm going to use this pop of black for the wreath. And then we're going to have this little flower. So this flower I've already colored to match, and this is what we're going to do next. So I will explain that. We're going to just add a little ribbon nest, which is what I call it. I'm not sure. So I'm wrapping around my fingers like 4 or 5 times. So I get this little nesty thing here. And then we're going to use, you can use a, so it twisted already for me. So I was going to, I wrapped it around loosely around my fingers. And we're going to just stick it on a dimensional like that and just kind of spread it out a little bit. And then once you get all your other pieces on there, if you need more, so I just like to use one, and that way if I need more twine coming out, I can just kind of rearrange it before I stick the other flower on. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've just got a little loose twine. Linen thread is what it is. This is the strawberry slush. Beautiful faux linen. And we'll just add a little pop of that pink. These are the neutral matte dots. They come in crumb cake, white, and ivory and black. They're perfect for the cards we're going to do today because we're using a lot of the neutrals. Need a little more putty. There we go. Hey, Bernadine. Great to have you. Lori, the daubers are really helpful with the 3D folders. Yes. It just takes a little bit longer than the direct paper because you have to keep, re-inking the dauber. All right, so here is our finished card. So I just repeated the colors in this little watercolor. I think some glitter spritz would look fabulous. So the crumb cake makes it really muted, and it helps the white to just really pop. This particular flower is from the Charming Day stamp set. All right, so let's go back to the sunflower embossing folder. This is new, online exclusive. There are so many gorgeous samples out there with this particular folder. So I showed you how you could step it up from just white direct-to-paper to having some crushed curry ink on the inside of the folder, and then adding the white. And then here is like what we just did with the other wreath. So I figured out where I wanted to put my paper. So the nice thing about this folder is you can get different versions of the sunflower or where you want them on your card. So I just kind of figured out which sunflowers I wanted. And then I kind of kept this as my guide, and I just tried to put the ink color where it would kind of match the leaves and the sunflower in the centers, and then did the white. Now you could also, after you did the white craft ink and you dragged that, you could let that dry just a little bit or add some embossing powder to it and make it even pop even more. Very fun technique. Here's another one with the traditional wreath. Instead, I just did lines. Okay, here is a new, this is going to be in the upcoming catalog as well. This one's very subtle. This color of cardstock was actually cloud cover, so it's the same as the card base. So I added Misty Moonlight and Secret Sea before I embossed it, and then all the white ink just really makes it pop. And then here is the circles. This is on basic beige cardstock first. Again, just kind of going along with the circles to kind of mimic the embossing folder. And then here is the butterflies. Just use, this is a hybrid folder. It does have dies, but I just used it as an embossing folder and just kind of also did kind of where the butterflies were a little bit. Just gives a nice little subtle background. Actually did it backwards the first time. I put all the color on. This is Pool Party cardstock, by the way, that I started with. And then I embossed it. My folder was upside down. So anyway, I just went and finished it, but you can see how it just shows the other side. It's kind of cool. This is fun. You can get out all of your embossing folders and try them with this technique, and you will have an amazing playtime. All right, so there is the card we just did. So let's go to technique number 2. So we're going to do the technique called whitewashing. And we're going to use this new bundle called Christmas Greenery. This is also in the new mini catalog. It's one of the ones that goes along with this suite as well. And so we're going to take the little wreath, or the bouquet, not the wreath. So it has this bouquet and then has this swag. This has a poinsettia and it's definitely Christmas. This, as you're going to see, it does have these like pine cone things, but I think it looks like just a pretty floral wreath. So I think this can be used for any kind of card, and I'm going to prove it right now. So I'm going to use my embossing buddy because we're going to emboss here. And we'll use our white craft ink. You could also use Versamark instead of your white craft for this part because we're going to use embossing powder. So it doesn't really matter if it's white or Versamark for this particular part. Okay, so now we're going to dip it in powder. And heat set it. Hi, Tiffany. Okay, so for this technique, we're going to use our white craft ink refill as paint. Okay, so you can see how thick this is. It's a lot like the consistency of acrylic paint, I think. Probably maybe a little bit thicker. And it doesn't take much. And so here's where you can use a blender pen or a paint pen. Or you can actually use Wink of Stella as well. but we're going to keep this simple. So let me show you both. I have one that's just kind of designated. So what we're going to do now is just kind of go back and we're going to whitewash inside. You can go ahead with, if a blender pen, you can just pick up right from the glob, because this has that glycerin ink in it, that clear ink. It's going to add that little bit of liquid to it. Okay, and you just keep going until it runs out, and you'll get these nice little So you're still going to see the cardstock color coming through. So it kind of just gives a lighter, you know, it still kind of looks like a lighter pink that you're coloring in with. Okay, if you don't have a blender pen, I'm going to use a paintbrush. Then what I would recommend is that you add a couple drops of water. And water it down, because if you're just using a regular paintbrush, it will be too thick. It won't give you what you want as far as consistency. See, even this I need to water it down a little bit more because it's really dark white. So you can get different values. So if you get it too dark, you can just blot it. Okay, so I've colored that in. Let's put the card together. This is going to be a monochromatic card. One of the things I noticed, these flowers and these leaves, we see these images repeated all over with different patterns. And so I got out, so this is Berry Burst. And so I got out my package of 6x6 brights. It has all of the brights with the 4 different patterns. And so we've got these 2 patterns and these 2 patterns for every color. And I mean, look at the flowers and the leaves. They totally match this stamp set. So that's why I was like, we can make this into a non-holiday card. So I'm just going to use some of these papers to accent. Okay, so this is another bundle coming up. It's just a greeting stamp set, but there's a die set that is amazing that you could use with all kinds of different greetings, not just this stamp set. So I'm using these today because they're really fun. Lots of stitched. This has a little curly on it. But we'll use the Just For You. What is the color of the solid light? This is bubble bath. I always want to call it bubble gum. It's bubble bath. I think white as a card base would look really great with this too, because you've got this pop of white right here, and we're going to put a pop of white with this greeting, and so I don't think you'd have to coordinate the lighter pink. Let's put that right there. Since we've got some berry burst, we'll use them. Okay, so this is a very simple whitewash where we're just going to leave it whitewashed and just get that really beautiful kind of monochromatic look. Okay, so here is the first one I did with Pretty Peacock. I think this technique works best with medium to dark colors, tones of the cardstock. You can do it on a really light, like if we did it on this, stamped the bouquet on the really light pink, you would still be able to tell that it's whitewashed. It would still look pretty, but it's a little bit more dramatic when you have kind of a medium to a dark tone. Okay, so do you agree with me? Do you think this bouquet can totally be just a regular bouquet? Okay, let me show you something else. Okay, so here it is stamped in black. So here we embossed it with white, but here I just stamped it with my Memento Black, and I'm whitewashing it. So let's go back to the paint pen here, just so you can see how it you get a little bit more precise coloring when you use the blender pen versus the paint pen, but it just kind of depends on the image that you've stamped. Isn't that pretty just all by itself? And the black and the white together just look amazing. So I cut it out with the die and I just put it on a black and white card just so you could see just by itself and be really stunning. Okay, but look what else you can do. Okay, so this stamp set is designed very, very well. There's a piece that is solid that will color in all of these outline flowers. So let's just say you don't like to color. You can still use the stamp set, and I'm going to just tell you honestly that I didn't even realize that that was a two-step stamp. Okay, so because we have the solid images, if you've got a two-step like this, you could actually stamp your white instead of coloring it. Whoops. I think this was not cleaned. Okay. Okay, look, I'm just teaching you all kinds of things today. Okay, so there's that fun little leaf. And then here's the bow to fill in. Okay, so you could do it this way. You could two-step stamp your white in there instead of coloring. You saw how fast that went, right? I would just heat set it before you go to the next step, okay? Since this one was mostly dry already, I'm going to go back to this one. Now we're going to add color onto it. So you can leave it white, okay? You can do it on the colored paper, or you can add color back. So I'm going to clean these so I don't make another mistake. Okay, so I'm going to take petunia. Okay, so this one's already dry. I'm just kind of showing you some possibilities here. So I'm just going to take the colored ink and stamp right over. The white. Okay, you see how the little bit of white pops out. Plus, because this is on crumb cake, you would not normally get this bright of a color on crumb cake. Let's do one of the flowers. It's really fun. I'm just going to tell you, two-step stamping is the bomb. Okay, this is balmy blue. So you've got options. Okay, let's say you don't have a two-step stamp and you want to color. Go back to your blender pen, use the non-white side, and you could just pick up color and you can color right over the white. Again, you want to make sure the white is dry, so dry it with your heat tool or let it sit until it's all the way dry. Okay, so I don't know if you can be able to see the difference. So these were stamped and then these were colored with the blender pen. It's really similar, right? And just that little bit of white peeking through is just really delightful. So let's see, I did some, so here's what it would be like. So this one is just blended like I just did with my blender pen and the ink, but there's no white behind it. So it's kind of same colors. Interesting, right? How the white turns the green a little bit different and the pink. Okay, so this is more muted. This kind of looks like it's all pigment ink because of how it's bright. Would you stamp on crumb cake alone so we can see the difference? Yeah, let's flip it over. Okay, so this is what I just did, stamped white and then stamped ink. This is just whitewashed, so like what I did on those two leaves. So more than one way to do it. So let's do the back of this one so you can see. So here's Petunia Pop, just on crumb cake. Here's the leaf. there's the three. Here's the one we just did. That's how the color is a little bit different. Just adds a brightness to it. This is a blender pen over whitewash, so it's a little bit closer because the white is a little bit less intense when you brush it on with a blender pen. Yeah, the white really makes a pop. You're right. Okay, so like I said, I admit that I did not know that this was a two-step stamp set when I bought it, and now I'm super duper excited about it. So let's take a look at this one. I haven't played with this yet, but you've got this nice big poinsettia that will stamp right in there. You've got this flower here, and then these are, well, that because there's two of them, and then here's the ones I just used, all the little leaves, and there's a pine cone solid, so you can go ahead and stamp on the pine cones, which I didn't do. And then, of course, if you want to use these flowers by themselves, there's a center for each flower, and then some little berries. Very well designed stamp set. The bundle comes with the dies to cut out the all the little things here, the pine cone, all of that. And then it also has these solid images that are bigger to kind of help create larger focal points and greenery and a nice big bow. Okay, whitewash is fun. Definitely give that a try. Okay, so let's look at some other samples here with whitewash. Well, I did want to show you the finished card. So I took the, this was the first one I did, and I just finished it. Did a little blending around the outside to kind of make it look vintagey. And then I splattered some of that white ink on there, which is another fun technique you can do. So two-step stamp gives the detail. I'm not sure what you mean, Sue. Can you reframe that question? Just so you know, we were just talking about embossing, okay? These were both stamped with white craft ink. This one has clear embossing powder on it. This one is white embossing powder. So if you want the white, you either need to use your white. You need to use white embossing powder is the bottom line, but you can get it to stick with either your white craft pad or Versamark. You get the same effect. If you want a subtle white, then you can just put clear powder over your white craft ink. Okay, so this is also whitewashed. But then I went back with watercolor pencil. And you can see how intense that color gets as well. So this is gray granite cardstock. It's another great neutral. Kind of gives you that cooler effect than the warm crumb cake. And this is whitewashed and going back with the blender pen and ink from the ink pad. This is also gray granite, and it was whitewashed, and then I used ink with my Wink of Stella. Instead of the blender pen, I used the Wink of Stella to pick it up, and so it ended up being sparkly. Okay, you could also go back over when you get done with your whitewash and your color. You can just go back over if you don't want to dip your Wink of Stella into ink, because I know that's scary. You can just go back over and add that shimmer. Two-step stamping is a way to make one whole image with two different stamped images, like they come together. In this case, we have a detail stamp set, a detail image, and then you can fill in the detail image with the solid stamps. Sometimes two-step stamping is layered, like this pumpkin, where you stamp in 2 different ink colors and you put detail on top of a solid image. So this is both two-step stamping, just a little bit different how they're delivered. This one is just filling in, so you don't have to color. Basically, this one's layering ink on top of ink. Okay, so then I was like, what other two-step stamps do I have? And I thought about this fun pear. So let me just show you. So we're going to go back to crumb cake. This is our perfect pear. So it's got 2 steps, outline and a fill-in. And so I have already stamped the outline, and then I already took the solid image and I filled it in with white, and I let it dry. Okay, so now we're going to put ink on the top like we just did. Let's start with yellow. So this is Darling Duckling. And then, because I'm going light to dark here, I'm going to just kind of roll this around the edge, because I just want some green kind of around the edge. And then we're going to stamp right on top of that white. And so the ink is just sitting on top of the white craft. We've got our 2 colors there. So it's just a faster way to get kind of the whitewash technique if you have a 2-step stamp as opposed to coloring it. But coloring it's super fun, so. We'll just do the whole thing. Okay, so that's on crumb cake. This is on basic gray. You see how that color pops on basic gray with the white underneath. So it's a little bit like you are creating, you know, your own pigment ink. Okay, well, let's fix our second ink pad of the video. So I accidentally had an unclean stamp in there, and it, okay, you see how I'm blotting it and it's just going away. It's taking the ink. You don't want to rub it, you just want to blot it. Okay, so I've got the green ink off, and now we'll just add a little re-inker over that and blend it in. Okay, no crying, no crying. We make mistakes. Okay, so that is whitewash technique. Lots of fun. Look at your stamps and see what you have for 2-step stamping. Okay, the last technique we're going to do I'm calling blended die cuts. It's kind of fun. I'm going to use another new stamp set. It's called Snowy Delights, and it has huge snowflakes, okay? Because you can't really use white craft without at least doing 1 snowflake, in my opinion. So this technique is super easy. It's just a way to like kind of do something different with your die cuts. And so we're going to make a totally blue card here. And I've already taken this die, this large die, I've cut it out 3 times in Night of Navy. Look how fun that is. And so we are going to take a die cut. We're going to add the same color ink as the paper you cut it out in, and then we're going to add white, and we're going to blend them kind of opposite of each other so they kind of go together, and it's just kind of going to add more life to your die cut. I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to start with the navy, Night of Navy, and I think we've got a clear spot here. I'm going to ink that up, and we're going to start in the middle and just make it darker. Ooh, isn't that pretty? Okay, so let me show you the two here so you can kind of, it's hard to tell on Night of Navy, but this is the inked one. This is the uninked. Let's go ahead and do all of them. This bundle also comes with masks that match, so you can totally do this technique too. So much fun. I should be doing this on a piece of white so I'll use it as a background. So you're going to intensify part of your die cut. I'm going to work out from the center. I'm going to make the center darker than the ends, but you can kind of choose how you want that to be. Close that up. We'll put that one way over there. Now we'll see if my white is going to not be green. I don't know. We'll see. Remember, this is the one I accidentally put in yellow at the beginning. So now we're going to take white. And I'm going to go in, but not all the way, so that we get our darker navy that we inked, kind of a middle color, and then the outside color, which kind of mutes the cardstock color. Does that make sense? You could use a dauber for this as well. A finger dauber. So I'm kind of getting 2 to 3 tones of blue. Okay. So if I was super smart, I would have put these on adhesive sheets first, but I didn't. So now this is the regular navy that these started out with, and you see how we've got 3 tones of navy just by using the ink and then the white. We kind of have these beautiful snowflakes. So we're going to just take a minute, and I picked 3, and they'll hang off and I'll have to cut, I'll have to trim. But I'm gonna kind of put them like that. Adhesive sheets would be very helpful in this case. I'm going to get them all on, and then if I have to go back and just add a little adhesive after the fact, I will, because I'm doing this quickly. There's also a little die here that makes these tiny little snowflakes that look like asterisks. So I'm just going to put a couple of those on there. Okay, it's not very symmetrical. So we're basically making a background with die cuts. It's fun to do. Any solid punch, this would work with punches, any shape. And then just give them some ink with the same color as the cardstock, and then use some white. This hurts a little bit to cut these snowflakes. Okay, so now we have a beautiful, simple background. And I'm going to go put it on a Misty Moonlight for a little contrast. This would also look pretty on white paper. So I'm using the little Joy to the World. This little die comes with this snowflake set. And this is called Misty Moonlight Ribbon. I think we'll put this right here. I will bring out that bundle so you can see it again. There are 2 snowflake bundles this season. One is in the mini catalog, and one is in the online exclusives. So the one I'm showing you will be in the mini catalog. All of this begins September 7th. It's called Snowy Delights, and the dies are Snowy Delight dies. And then it also comes with I don't know where they are, but you can get masks to go with the snowflake, a set of masks, so you can layer the color. It's really pretty. And so we're going to use these hues of blues. These are actually called flowers. You've got all the blues on there, kind of a balmy blue, Misty Moonlight, and Secret Sea. But I think they look like snowflakes. So let's see what the white ones look like. Add some little white ones around there. Okay, I have one Christmas card done. Okay, so this is what I'm calling blended die cuts. I don't know, there's probably a better name for it, but we're just blending ink on the die cuts to give them that different value. So here is the Gathering Autumn, Gathering Moments bundle with the nice big leaf dies. And so this is Cajun Craze cardstock for this leaf. It's the darker blended inks down here, and then the white is blended up there. And then I actually stamped some words on it just to give it some texture as well. So just think about your dies or your punches. You could also do this with flowers. So these are the Impressions A Bloom flowers and die cuts. So I didn't use the stamp set, I just used the dies. The darker ink, just like the snowflake, is in the middle. So this is Melon Mambo. I put Melon Mambo ink on the inside, and then the white craft around the edges. You can see how it just adds a really nice, like, added almost texture. The background is just simply direct to paper on an embossing folder. And then there's a little edge of white around the black. You can do with your dauber or your blending brush. And then don't forget, you can do this with letters. So this is Petunia Pop cardstock, the blended ink, the white. Let me just show you. So here is Petunia Pop plain. So it's different. You know, it's two different, you get, you know, 3 different values if you kind of leave a space in between there. It's almost like making kind of an ombre. All right, so those are blended die cuts. Let's bring our cards back, and I would love to see what your favorite white craft pad technique is. Oh, goodness. Too many. Okay. We'll zoom out. I'm pretty excited about these snowflakes. That turned out better than I thought. So we've got our blended die cuts with our white craft ink. We have whitewash in several different ways. We've got 2-step stamping whitewash, which I think is the most fun. And then we have our stepped up background with an embossing folder. Let's see. Like frosting on a cake. Yes, that is a good analogy. Thank you, Lori. Hey, Vicky from Australia. Thank you, Tyra. Yes, Joy, you need to get this back out. This is, I say this all the time, but it's because it's so true. The thing with card making and rubber stamping in general is that there's so many different fun folds and techniques that you just keep cycling through them with, you know, maybe some new papers or new colors, and it just keeps it fresh all the time. I never get bored. Hi, Becky. Sarah likes the whitewash idea. Wonderful. Okay, so if you are brand new to the White Craft ink pad, you don't have it yet, you get, it's $10.50 to get the blank pad and the re-inker. And then if you need another re-inker down the road, you can just buy that separately. And then don't forget, if you haven't watched the first part 1 of White Craft ink, go back and watch that. Thank you, Linda. Mary Ruth likes the 2nd and 3rd types. Tiffany likes the multicolor cards. Thank you. Tyra likes the blended die cuts. Oh, Ginger, thinking of you too. Give Sherry a birthday hug for me. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for joining us live today, Robin. First time, she said. Okay, so your assignment is to grab this PDF as soon as it's ready after the live, and then get out that white craft pad. You might have to ink it up. Do a little whitewashing on one of your favorite stamp sets. Use an embossing folder, do some direct to paper, and I hope that you get a little inky on your fingers and you don't make any of the mistakes that I made with my ink pads, but you saw that we can fix it. So now you know how to fix it too. Hi, Judy. Thank you, Mary. She likes the snowflakes too. Hi, Lana. Hey, Tamara. So glad to have you. So thank you for being with me today, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great rest of your weekend.